The chandelier's crystal drops flickered like trapped stars as the evening rehearsal bustled around the grand ballroom. At the center of it all, Brielle, the bride-to-be, turned to the wedding planner with a perfectly staged smile. "Don't seat her anywhere near the front," she announced, her voice loud enough to carry across the polished marble floor. "She doesn't belong there." A ripple of cruel laughter slipped from her bridesmaids like champagne bubbles. Across the room, Elena stood still, her hands curling into fists so tightly that the edge of her engagement ring cut into her palm. The small pain steadied her, an anchor in the storm of humiliation. Eyes darted toward her, some curious, some gloating, treating her as if she were a stain on the venue's flawless design. She had learned to swallow moments like this without flinching, but tonight the bitterness burned. Elena was 32, an investment strategist who had perfected the art of fading into the background. She'd spent years disappearing at family gatherings, in holiday photos, and especially at Brielle's milestone events. Each time, her sister found a new way to remind her she was the lesser one, the plain one, the quiet one. Tonight was supposed to be no different. "Come on, Brielle, don't be harsh," one bridesmaid muttered weakly, but the damage was already done. Brielle flicked her hand dismissively, as if brushing away a bit of lint. Elena wished she could melt into the marble floor and escape the smirks. But instead, a steady hand landed on her shoulder, strong, deliberate, and firm enough to silence the laughter. She turned, startled. Standing beside her was Nathan Cole, a tech investor no one expected to see at a wedding rehearsal. His navy suit was cut sharp, his presence cutting through the mockery like a blade. He and Elena had met 6 months earlier when he approached her about investment opportunities, and for the past 3 months they had been quietly dating, a part of her life she had carefully kept separate from Brielle's belittling world. "Tell them who you really are now," Nathan said, his voice low but resonant enough to reach every corner of the room. Conversations died mid-breath, and the air turned electric. Elena's pulse pounded against her ribs as every eye fixed on her. For the first time in years, she felt a flicker of fire under her dread. Brielle's smirk faltered. She tossed her hair with a brittle laugh. "Oh, come on. Are we really doing this? She's just Elena, my sister who's always lurking in the background. Don't make her out to be someone important." The word lurking stabbed deeper than any insult before. Guests shifted uncomfortably, their earlier laughter now hollowed out by tension. Nathan's voice cut cleanly through the air. "Funny," he said evenly, his eyes sweeping the crowd. "From where I stand, it looks like the only person here with actual dignity is her." Murmurs rose. Elena's head snapped toward him, lips parting in disbelief. No one had ever stood up for her like that, not in front of Brielle, not in front of anyone. Brielle's fiancé, Jason, cleared his throat, his brow furrowing. "Look, I don't know what this is about, but maybe we should stick to the rehearsal." "We don't need to," Nathan interrupted, his tone so calm it was terrifying. Jason froze, sinking back into his chair. Nathan turned to Elena again, his voice soft but urgent. "They don't get to define you. You tell them, or I will." Elena's chest tightened. Every instinct screamed to stay quiet, to slip back into the shadows like always. But Nathan's eyes, sharp, unrelenting, yet patient, ignited something inside her. A spark she had buried for too long began to flare. Elena drew a slow breath. Her heels clicked against the marble as she stepped forward, the sound echoing through the hush. "You've all spent years treating me like I'm nothing," she began. Her voice trembled at first, but grew steadier with each word. "Maybe that's because none of you ever bothered to see who I really am." Brielle folded her arms, smirking. "And who exactly are you, Elena? You work in some dull office, you wear second-hand clothes, and you show up where you're barely wanted. Don't act like you're suddenly somebody." Gasps rippled across the ballroom at her cruelty, but Brielle stood taller, feeding on attention as always. Before Elena could respond, Nathan stepped beside her, his presence like thunderclouds gathering. "She's not just somebody, Brielle," he said calmly. "She's the reason half the people in this room even have jobs." The air cracked open. Guests exchanged stunned glances, whispers hissing between them. Brielle blinked rapidly. What are you talking about? Elena turned toward her sister fully, voice firm now. I'm not the failure you've always made me out to be. I've worked in silence, building, investing. And last month, she paused, letting the tension coil tight. Last month, I became the majority shareholder of your company. The room erupted in disbelief. Brielle stumbled backward, color draining from her face. You're lying, she breathed. That's impossible. Nathan's lips curved into a faint smile. I should know. I sold her the final shares. The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Brielle's fiancé muttered something under his breath, but she silenced him with a glare. Elena let the stillness linger, her confidence rising like heat. For the first time, she didn't lower her eyes. So, next time you decide where I belong, she said coldly, remember, I now own the very company you boast about. Murmurs of shock rippled through the crowd. Even the waiters froze mid-step. Brielle's jaw tightened, fury replacing disbelief. You think this changes anything? She snapped. This is my wedding. You'll never be more than a shadow. Nathan's hand brushed Elena's lightly, steadying her. You don't need to stand in the back anymore, he whispered. Show them where you belong. Elena inhaled deeply, her pulse steadying. The room buzzed with curiosity, every eye fixed on her. For the first time in her life, the attention didn't feel like a weapon, it felt like power. Brielle's voice cracked through the noise. You don't get to walk in here and hijack my moment. This rehearsal is about me, not you. Her hands shook, her perfect posture slipping. Nathan didn't respond. His silence made her more frantic. Elena took a step forward, her calmness unsettling everyone. You're right, she said. This is your rehearsal. I didn't come to steal your spotlight, but you stole mine years ago. The words landed like stones. The crowd leaned closer, captivated. You mocked me at every turn, Elena continued. You thought I'd never rise high enough to fight back. You were wrong. One bridesmaid quietly dropped her supportive hand from Brielle's arm, suddenly uncomfortable. Brielle let out a brittle laugh. You think money makes you better than me? That's all this is, money. Without it, you're still the same pathetic girl in my shadow. Elena met her gaze evenly. Money didn't change me, she said. Silence did. Every cruel word you threw became fuel. Every door you slammed, I forced open myself. While you were pretending to be perfect, I was building something real, something you can't take away. The hush that followed was so complete the chandeliers seemed to hum. Nathan stepped forward slightly, his shadow falling over Brielle. You humiliated your own sister in front of your family, he said quietly. That says everything about who doesn't belong here. Brielle's lips parted, but nothing came out. Jason rose abruptly. All right, that's enough. Elena, billionaire or not, this isn't the time or place. You're making a scene. Elena turned toward him, her voice sharp but composed. She made a scene when she mocked me in public. I'm just finishing it. Around them, the tide began to shift. Faces once amused, now sober, some even approving. Brielle's hands trembled at her sides, her mask cracking. You'll regret this, she hissed. Elena tilted her head. I already regret every year I let you step on me. Nathan's jaw tightened. She won't be stepping on you again, he said firmly. Not now, not ever. Brielle's composure broke. She grabbed a champagne glass and slammed it onto the table, cracking the stem. Liquid splashed across white linen. Gasps filled the air. Jason caught her wrist, whispering for her to calm down, but she yanked free. The golden bride facade was crumbling, and everyone saw it. Elena didn't flinch. She faced the guests, her voice clear and unwavering. I never asked for this moment. I didn't come here to outshine my sister. But maybe it's time we stop pretending cruelty disguised as humor is acceptable. Maybe we stop letting laughter excuse abuse. The room fell silent. Even the music faded. Nathan touched her arm gently, offering her an exit. But she stayed rooted, eyes locked on Brielle's. If you think I don't belong here, she said softly, then maybe it's you who doesn't belong in my life anymore. The statement hit harder than a slap. Brielle's eyes widened, her breath catching as the words sank in. Elena turned, walking away slowly as whispers rippled through the crowd, not mocking this time, but awed. For once, the ballroom no longer revolved around Brielle. Her guests whispered Elena's name, their curiosity replacing judgment. Brielle's perfect world was cracking like glass. Her bridesmaids avoided her gaze. The groomsmen fidgeted. Even her mother sat in stunned silence, unsure which daughter to defend. "You can't do this." Brielle's voice rose shrilly. "You can't come here and ruin everything. This is my moment." Nathan's expression hardened. "No, Brielle," he said coldly. "You ruined it when you decided to humiliate your sister in front of everyone. Actions have consequences. You just never expected yours." Guests exchanged uneasy glances, some nodding faintly. Jason looked at his fiancée, with disappointment etched across his face. "Enough, Brielle," he said quietly. "You're embarrassing yourself." Her eyes snapped toward him, panic flickering behind fury. "Embarrassing myself?" she shouted. "She's the one making a fool of everyone. She thinks money makes her untouchable." "Stop," Elena said, her tone calm but commanding. The single word froze the room. She didn't raise her voice. It simply carried authority. "This isn't about money," she said. "It's about respect, something you never gave me." She took a step closer, the distance between them disappearing. "You've spent your life tearing me down because you only felt big when I stayed small. But now that I've stopped bowing, you have nothing left." Brielle's face strained of color. Her fury flickered into something raw, fear. The guests held their breath. Nathan moved beside Elena, his tone even but final. "Elena doesn't need to prove herself anymore. But if you need proof, look around. Everyone here just watched you try to destroy her, and fail." Brielle's lips trembled. The balance of power had shifted completely. For once, Elena wasn't the invisible one. She was the storm that had swallowed the room. Elena turned toward the guests, voice steady. "I don't want your pity. I don't need approval. But I won't let cruelty pass as entertainment again. Not from her, not from anyone." The words echoed like a verdict. Heads lowered in shame. Others nodded in agreement. Jason's voice cut through the stillness. "Brielle," he said, his tone sharp, "if this is who you are, humiliating your sister, lashing out at everyone, maybe I should reconsider walking down that aisle." Gasps spread like wildfire. Brielle's knees weakened. She gripped the back of a chair for balance. "Jason, you can't mean that," she whispered. But his silence said everything. He turned away. The color drained from her face. Elena didn't gloat. She only stood taller, the weight of years falling away. For the first time she felt free. Brielle's voice broke. "You'll regret this, Elena. You'll regret humiliating me." Elena leaned forward just enough for her words to land like steel. "No. The only thing I regret is letting you humiliate me for so long. That ends tonight." Her sister's eyes glistened with unshed tears, but Elena didn't stay to watch her crumble. She turned, Nathan stepping beside her, his presence steady. The crowd parted in silence as they walked toward the grand doors. Whispers trailed behind them. Not ridicule, but respect. No one laughed anymore. The ballroom that once belonged to Brielle now echoed with a new name, Elena Ward. The woman they had overlooked for years had just rewritten the story. Outside, the air was cool, the night sky endless. Elena stopped on the stone steps, her chest still tight with adrenaline. Nathan slipped his jacket over her shoulders. "You don't need their validation," he said quietly. "But after tonight, they'll never forget you." She exhaled shakily, the tension melting away. "Why did you step in back there?" she asked softly. His eyes warmed. "Because I saw someone worth defending," he said. Someone who didn't realize she already had the power to defend herself. For the first time in years, Elena smiled, a real smile, not the polite mask she used to survive family events. "Thank you," she whispered. Nathan shook his head. "Don't thank me. You did that on your own. All I did was remind you who you are." Together they walked down the quiet drive, leaving the glittering ballroom behind. The night breeze carried faint echoes of gasps and whispers, But Elena no longer cared. She wasn't the shadow anymore. She was the storm they never saw coming. In the days that followed, the family group chat fell silent. No apologies came, no excuses. Only uncomfortable quiet. The guests who once overlooked her now reached out privately, some offering congratulations, others curiosity. Elena ignored most of it. She had spent enough years explaining herself. The silence, this time, was peaceful. Nathan sent her a single message that evening. "You held your ground like a queen." She replied simply, "For once, I believed I was." 2 weeks later, a text arrived from Jason. "We postponed the wedding. I'm reevaluating things." She stared at the screen for a long time, feeling neither triumph nor pity, just closure. The universe had a way of rearranging truth when arrogance collapsed. She placed the phone down, letting the message fade into background light. Brielle's downfall wasn't her victory. Her freedom was. That weekend, Elena met Nathan at a cafe overlooking the river. The morning sunlight glinted off the water, soft and calm. "You're quiet," he observed. She smiled faintly, just thinking how strange it feels to finally breathe. He nodded. "That's what happens when you stop asking permission to exist." They talked for hours about work, travel, and beginnings. For the first time, their conversations weren't about hiding. They were about possibility. Elena decided to make their relationship public. No more secrecy. She uploaded a simple photo, her and Nathan at the river, laughter genuine, eyes unburdened. The caption read, "No more shadows." Within minutes, the post flooded with comments, some supportive, some shocked. Among them, one message stood out, from Brielle. "I'm sorry. It was short, unsure, and late, but it was something." Elena didn't reply. Forgiveness would come on her terms, not anyone else's. She closed the app and leaned back, watching the sunset turn the river gold. Nathan reached across the table, taking her hand. "You okay?" She nodded. "Better than I've been in years." He smiled softly. "Then don't look back. You earned this peace." That night, she walked through her apartment, the city lights glowing through the glass windows. The world outside hummed with quiet life, but inside, everything felt still and right. She opened her laptop, reviewing her latest investments, projects that built communities, funded young entrepreneurs, and empowered women to rise without fear. She smiled to herself. For years, she'd been building not just wealth, but freedom, for herself and others who'd been silenced. Weeks later, a letter arrived, handwritten, trembling ink. Brielle's apology. Real this time. Tears had stained the corner. Elena read it slowly, then placed it in a drawer, not out of bitterness, but closure. The past had ended the night of the rehearsal. From then on, every day belonged to the woman who chose not to fade. Elena Ward, once invisible,